What up, everybody? It's Aaron with Robert, and this is Get Your Geek On. And today we are talking about Robert's favorite trilogy that happened, I think. That is the Matrix Trilogy. The first three films, we're talking about them before the new fourth one comes out.
Yeah.
Just like a week away or so. Yeah, a week about roughly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know exactly when this video is going to drop,
Yeah,
but we'll drop it before Matrix Resurrections comes out. So we are revisiting. We're just going to talk real quickly through the first trilogy. Spoilers, of course, for those three movies: The Matrix Reloaded, The Matrix Revolutions. Yeah, I think we can just go ahead and get started. And this is what I think we can both agree on, is that the first movie is great.
Yeah.
And it still holds up. We went to see it in theater. Actually, we got a chance to go see a re-screening of it. So I got to, actually experience it in theater for the first time because when it first came out, I was too young to go see an R-rated movie in theater. And so I was super excited to do that. And I think the movie is great and it holds up. And there's not really much more to say. If you've never seen The Matrix, I would still encourage you to go watch that first one because I do think it is an incredible sci-fi masterpiece and still holds up.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does hold up really well. The graphics, the storyline, the look, and the feel, it all holds up really, really well. And of course, we had 10 years plus of bullet time for every single movie after that. You even said, even Shrek had it. Yeah. Oh my God. That was the worst thing that came from that film was everyone else like, oh, we all want to do bullet time now. Let's show you how we do it. Yeah, don't do that.
And so after the incredible success of that movie in 1999, Warner Brothers greenlit two sequels by the same creators, the Wachowski. At the time, the brothers, they have transitioned, and so they're now sisters. And basically gave them the budget to make two movies. They made them back to back. They released in the same year in 2003. The first one came out, I think, in spring, and then the next one came out in fall. So they came out about 6 months apart or so.
Yeah.
And I will say, before we dive too deep into these movies, into Reloaded and Revolutions, these two do feel separate from the first one. They feel like they're telling their own story. They feel very connected to each other, but very kind of disconnected in my mind from the first one.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
And so I had not seen these movies in their entirety since probably the summer of 2004, or around then is when I think I saw them both for the first time. Again, I did not see them in theaters. I rented them from Blockbuster, and I saw them in the same weekend, and I really did not like them, especially the third one. And so since then I've seen bits and pieces of them, like when they've been on TV and stuff, but this is revisiting them for the first time, really since they came out. And the one thing I will say, just my initial thoughts, and then we'll get to you, is that neither of them were as bad as I remembered.
Okay.
But I will say that I don't think either of them are particularly good movies as a whole. I think Reloaded has some really, really, really excellent scenes and some redeeming qualities that kind of make it a middling movie. Like it's still, it's decent. It still has some issues that I'm sure we'll talk about. And then the third one for me, while not being as bad as I remember when I think I just thought it was the worst movie ever made, is still not a very good movie. There's a lot of problems with it. And there's a lot of, it's just very unsatisfying, at least for me, the way it kind of concludes the story. So that's those are my feelings before we actually get into the meat and bones of the movie. What about you? Where are you at?
I kind of in that same boat. Like, I think I've seen the first one a few times. The second one and the third one I saw, it's probably been like a good 10 plus years since I've seen that. And yeah, I have to agree with you. I think the second and third one are almost pretty much intertwined, like perfectly. And I do feel that disconnect from the first one, especially with the way the storylines are being told. And again, I know we talked about it off camera too. Like what happened to Tank, that there was something with the actors that caused part of the issue. Because I was like, my first two sentences were like, what happened? It's, he died. Okay, so I'm just gonna have to go with the wounds were hurt so bad that he just lived for a few more minutes and then died.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And that does kind of tend to hurt, but that's the way movie business goes. But yeah, I just watching it, I think the third film felt like how much action can and how much fighting and violence can be put in this and look cool, which they tried, but it fell so short for me. And I don't know if it's because I've seen so many more movies now that can nail it. I don't know if it just overly stuffed. I don't know. I honestly can say this, that the second and third one were okay. I agree with you now that it's not as good as the first, and I remember why I haven't watched them in like 10 years.
Yeah. Well, and this is what I will say about the third one in particular.
Okay.
After the first maybe 15 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
we're not in the Matrix anymore. So it's called Matrix Revolutions, and it's in the Matrix Trilogy, but we literally don't go back into the Matrix until like the final action sequence.
Right.
We're in the real world that whole time, and I just have to say that did not hold appeal for me.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point of like the Matrix was how cool it was that there was like this whole world that was in your head and like all that stuff. And so to just completely divorce that, it really felt like, I don't think they had this whole trilogy planned out when they made the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, the first movie was such a success that they said, well, let's, hey, can you think of a story, and we'll continue this and we'll make some more movies that make a lot of money. And so they came up with a story, and it's not to say that story is not interesting. It just feels so disconnected from the first one.
Yeah.
Like it just like they really are expanding it. I mean, even in Reloaded, we get so much more time in the real world as we're establishing a bunch of new characters and the human city of Zion and just all this stuff. And most of that is just not very interesting to me. I still I want the crazy action sequences with people flying around and doing all like that is so much more fun. And in Reloaded, we still get several of those scenes. The highway chase scene is spectacular. It's so good. But I think, and we talked about this even before we revisited any of them. I think what I told you is that my memory of these two movies is that the stakes just seemed so much lower for our main characters. Right. And watching it again, that really was hammered home, even though by the end of the movie, of the trilogy, like we lose, spoiler alert, we lose Trinity for good. And Neo, certainly appears to be dead, or at least very incapacitated. And so you would say, well, then the stakes were higher because they died. But if you actually look at what happened, especially it's mostly in Reloaded, because again, we're not in the Matrix at all, really, in the third one. In the first movie, the agents that we go up against, particularly Agent Smith, but even the other two, are just so menacing. And they, you can feel their presence and their threat. And every time they interact with one of our characters, it feels like if they're surviving, it's by the skin of their teeth. And most of the time they're not. Morpheus gets whooped on by Agent Smith. And then you see, Neo, even, who's the one, is barely able to survive against Agent Smith in his big long fight. And then, it's just like, it felt so visceral. And then we get to the next one, and you've got, Morpheus basically holding his own against an agent now. We've got Trinity later in the movie fighting an agent. And while she's definitely outmatched, it's not to the point where you ever feel like he's going to kill her.
Yeah, like, it never felt like it at all.
And so it just really is, it was very disappointing because it felt like, the action, while pretty to look at, wasn't as brutal as in the first movie. And then again, just kind of the storyline of taking it outside of the Matrix and having, this virus program, Agent Smith being the one that, would unite humanity and the machines together because we have to defeat this common enemy. Like, it was like, what is it? Like, I'm not enjoying this. This is weird.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, again, the ending of just like, we have this tentative peace where apparently we're going to, anybody that wants to be released from the Matrix is going to be, but how are they even going to be presented with that choice? Like, it's just,
exactly.
it was so weird. And again, ultimately just unsatisfying for me.
It really was, and then like the whole comment of, oh, well, Smith took over the Matrix. So, you're not going to be able to control him. He's going to come out here. But we already had, I forgot KFC man's name, Colonel Sanders wannabe.
Oh, yeah, the architect.
Yeah, the architect comment that was the 6th iteration of the Matrix. So why can't they just be like, cool, we're just going to erase everything and start over? Like, right. Okay, I solved your plot line in like 2 seconds. I had so many plot holes in the last one. Like the second one had some, but the third one had so many more. Because like you said, we bring it to the real world and we have this commander who's like, oh, I hate Morpheus and his beliefs. I don't believe in it. I'm a soldier. And it's like, okay, shut up. Like every time that guy talked, I hated it. Yeah. And my other thought was, okay, we've commented, we have like, I don't remember how many. By the way,
that actor, if you recall, is also the very shoehorned in Martian Manhunter in the Zack Snyder verse.
That poor guy, he just gets the like worst of it all. Then, my other thing is too. So it's like we've commented, and I don't remember if it was in the second one or maybe the third one. They have like 13 ships. We lose something like that. There's some number. He says like how many are docked or something at some point.
Yeah.
But again, we have multiple ships. We know this. They have EMPs, and they talk about how like, oh, the robots are coming in through this whole thing, blah 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 blah. And all I could think of was like, why not surround everything with your ships and just EMP blast everything? And I know the argument is, oh, go ahead.
No. So they explain sort of that the Agent Smith infected dude, Bane, sabotaged the group of ships that had like those EMPs and like destroyed them. And so that's why they don't have any EMPs in the city anymore. But when they explained it, I thought it was like 5 of the ships. Like they didn't say it was like all of them. So yeah. I agree with you. Like there's something weird happening where like apparently all of their EMPs were taken, but not all of their ships, or I don't know.
I'm sorry, if that's your best weapon, why do you have bullets inside your thing? I'm going to line this whole building with EMPs, and I'm going to turn off all my electronics so my electronics don't get affected by the blast, and then we'll just detonate each one when they're getting close, and we just killed all the robots. Like, cool.
Yeah, I do have to wonder, like, why are only the ships equipped with EMPs? Like, why do they not have them in the city?
That was like the dumbest thing. I'm like, well, you're stupid as a commander. You should have been like, we're going to plant stuff out here to stop them too. And then like Aaron, you said, what?
Hey, Aaron.
Yeah.
Humans are stupid.
Apparently. And then like you said, though, and it's so obvious, we have this guy that the one captain is like, I don't like how he's acting. And he's, like you said, he's not tied down.
Whoa,
I want you to make him talk. I'm not going to put any soldiers in there with you to protect you. Go make him talk.
So frustrating that literally not only did they not use any restraints of any kind, but then they left him alone with somebody who clearly was outmatched.
Yeah, like, just a little scientist girl.
It was very frustrating to watch it going like, why would you not, like, it's like when, like a criminal is like, in the hospital because they sustained injury, like doing whatever they weren't supposed to do. Well, guess what? They handcuff them to the bed and they keep a cop there until they wake up. And why are we not doing this? Like, why is he not strapped down? And then like, we're going to always keep eyes on him, because then, later on in the movie, they're just like, we don't know what happened to Bane. And guess what? There's a dead murdered chick here. And the guy's like, I knew it. And you're like, no, you didn't.
Beaten it out of him.
Yeah, whatever. You didn't know it, because if you knew it, you wouldn't have let it happen.
Oh, yeah, like that was just the whole, we're going to move the plot to move the plot. So this is how it's going to play out. I hated that whole part. I honestly hated that character.
Yes.
Even though I know it's supposed to be an Agent Smith, I hated the whole thing. I thought it was dumb. It was just an easy way to add like more drama and suspense, I guess.
It was
and of course to take away Neo's sight, because he literally burnt his eye sockets out. And it was like,
which also doesn't make sense, because he gets it in like the side of his head, but apparently then it only burned specifically both of his eyes.
Both his eyes, yeah. Because there's like, water in your eye.
I don't know.
It was just the one. That's why I don't like. I feel like they had so many. They almost wrote themselves into a corner. I feel like a few times. Like, how do we get here? oh, conveniently there is no guards and we're gonna do this or or whatever. And then it felt like
go ahead. No,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say, like you said earlier, the agents, like they were the big threat in the first film. And in this film, it's like everyone's so much better than them. And it's like, no, they've already commented how powerful these guys are. And like you said, Morpheus holds his own he pretty much holds his own. Trinity doesn't hold her own, but she's able to live. Yes, she gets shot, but she lives in the fight. And,
sort
and
of.
then like, yeah.
That's a weird moment too, when Neo like brings her back to life.
Let me shove my whole hand through this little itty bitty hole.
He has a very like, he really should have, like, like in the last movie when they were like, I need the operating manual for like a helicopter. He really should have like been like, I need to know what basic human anatomy is, because apparently I don't know anything about that. I'm just gonna shove my arm into.
I'm glad you bring it up because it's something I said earlier to you. How did he know to put his hand in her heart? First of all, and I'm just going to squeeze the heart because that works, which, yes, in real life, it can work. But first of all, they've already commented how it's, like we said, the mind and the heart are not connected, but it's like, it's all in the head. So if the head already thinks the body's dead, how does it know that the heart's being pumped again to say, oh, I'm supposed to be alive again? That whole thing just was like.
My issue was like, he's like, I got to take the bullet out. And it's like, well, if she's going to survive with that bullet in her, can't you just fly her to an exit, like unplug her from the Matrix, and then she'll wake up in the real world and she'll be like, my gut hurts, but there's no bullet in there because there's no real, like, it's just pain. It's residual pain. Like, there's not any actual trauma. Like, yeah, that was dumb. And I just have to say, by the time we got through the, basically 4.5 to 5 hours of these two movies, which kind of felt like one big movie.
Yeah.
And we get to this final confrontation between Neo and Agent Smith. I was bored. I was bored out of my mind. I didn't care about the fight. They're like flying through the air, punching each other. I was bored. I didn't care how it was going to resolve. And then it resolves with, like Neo basically, getting turned into Agent Smith in the Matrix so that he can be then killed in the real world and eliminate the virus. And it's just like, I don't even know what's happening anymore.
Yeah.
I just didn't care.
That made no sense to me. And again, I guess I look at it this way. I get that was supposed to be like, I guess we'll say Smith Prime that he's fighting. And he tells all the other Smiths that these all the ones are just going to watch. You're the freaking evil villain. Yeah, they're going to watch. Oh, that guy just stabbed you in the back because I'm a liar. I'm an evil freaking villain. I'm not going to play fair if I have literally an entire matrix of me to help kill you. I wouldn't have played fair. Like, that was the stupidest fight I've ever seen. I'm like, okay, you're losing the fight, right, Smith? Okay, have 4 guys rush him, each grab a limb, stab him in the chest with your little I'm going to turn you into me moment, and then you turn into me. And I also didn't get, like, this whole time we see Smith is in control of whoever he takes over. Like, he is in control.
Yeah.
You haven't hinted at all that someone can overpower it somehow. And then he's like, oh, wait, this looks familiar.
The Oracle special.
But you didn't set that up for me.
No.
I mean, he already took over everybody. He literally took over everybody. You're telling me there was not one other, like, and that's another thing I don't like. Why is our programs really wanting to help? I didn't understand that whole plot. Like, we want to help because we're going to get deleted.
Right.
No,
it doesn't make sense. And there's also just so many.
I'm tangent.
There's so many just exposition moments where it's like, we've got 5 minutes of just talking. And I'm like, man, in the first movie, there's like one really good speech. There's, like when Agent Smith is kind of talking to Morpheus as he's trying to torture him. Like, it's a really good speech. And there are like other scenes of dialogue and stuff. There's obviously the interrogation scene with Neo, where Mr. Anderson, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
But they never linger on it, and they don't just tell you the plot for 5 minutes straight. And that's like, there was like 4 times in this movie in these 2 movies where like the Merovingian does it like 2 or 3 times. The Architect does it. The Oracle does it. And it's just Frenchman. Like, man, yeah, that's the Merovingian.
Oh, I remember the Frenchman cause and effect. Okay, I get it. Stop.
It was just like way too many times that they were just like talking at us. And I don't know. I don't think that they're not the worst movies ever made.
No.
But I will say, Matrix Reloaded. I think the first Matrix, like, I would give that 5 out of 5. I think it's okay. I think it's an excellent movie. I think it's fantastic. It's amazing. The Reloaded is probably like 2.5. Like, it's okay.
I don't hate
it. I don't hate it. I really like a lot of the action. Like that's what brings it to 2.5. Is that
Yeah.
the story is not great, but like there's so many good action sequences that I'm gonna take it up, to like 2.5. And then like Revolutions is like maybe 1.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
it's
can see
one.
that.
Like it's not satisfying. The action sequences aren't the ones that I want, because I want ones in the Matrix. And then by the time we finally get to like an action sequence in the Matrix, I was bored out of my head. So I just like, yeah, it was one of those things where, in terms of that movie in particular, it was really just unsatisfying. And to have it end with just kind of like, and I guess we're at peace. Like I was like,
But
no.
how long will it
Like,
last?
I don't like that. Like what I liked about the ending of the first Matrix is it felt like, Neo's gonna tear this shit down.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna destroy the Matrix from inside.
Yeah.
And then they just didn't do that at all.
No, I mean, and then you get, and that's what kind of sucked. At the end, you get Colonel Sanders and I don't remember his name. I'm gonna call him Colonel Sanders.
The architect.
Whatever. He was that's how important he was to me. He's Colonel Sanders. And the Oracle talking, and I'm like, this is how we're gonna end it, like a little tiny speech, not even with any of our main characters,
Nope.
but one character who we saw for one scene in the second film, and the Oracle who's just kind of been pushing people along the way. And like you said, he asked, well, how long do you think this will last? What did she say? Like, as long as it needs to, or as long as it can. And it's like, well, it wasn't really answering his question. He like, of course, peace is gonna last as long as it can.
It will last until we come up with a story for a fourth movie. So apparently
years, roughly.
It will last like 15
or
years
15, yeah, 15,
since those ones came out. Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, we ranted on this enough. So we're definitely gonna go see the new one, though. I think, right?
Yep. We will.
Are you gonna watch it on HBO, or are you gonna go see it in theaters?
I don't know. We'll see. I want to see it in theater because it's a spectacle, but I also am probably gonna wait to at least see what the reviews are. Like if the reviews are like it's really great, it's a return to the first one, then I'd be like, oh, I'll go see it in theater. If everybody's like it's on par with the next two, I'd be like, I'll stay at home.
We're gonna stay home and watch it, guys. Everybody go watch it at home. Yeah. But definitely, guys, let us know down below what you thought of the original trilogy. If you've seen it recently, let us know what you think of it down below. If you haven't, let us know what your memories were of it. Because at first I was like, oh yeah, I remember them being good movies, and then rewatched it, and now I realize how much I hated it.
We had the opposite effect where I hated them when I first saw them, and you kind of liked them, and now we're both like, yeah, they were whatever. They got slightly better for me, they got worse for you, and we both are ending up in the same place where we're like, yeah, they're fine, they're terrible, whatever.
They're there, guys. But anyway, guys, on that note, definitely let us know down below. And of course, check out all of our stuff at facebook.com/officialgygo, as well as YouTube official GYGO, and Instagram. On that note, I'm Aaron, he's Robert, and this is Get Your Geek On, guys, and stay geeky.
Bye.